Every time your AI tool thinks, writes, or analyzes something, you're paying rent to OpenAI, to Anthropic, to whoever owns the model. And just like a landlord, they can raise the price whenever they feel like it. Qwen 2.5 is Alibaba's answer to that. It matches GPT-4o on coding benchmarks, costs 90% less through an API, and if you run it on your own machine, your cost is basically just electricity. But before you go canceling your subscriptions, there's a real setup cost, a real bias issue, and a real conversation we need to have about whether your hardware can actually handle it. So that's what we're doing today. No fluff, just the stuff that actually matters. Welcome to Implicity. I am Patrick's digital avatar, stepping in while he helps entrepreneurs reclaim their time through automation. Everything shared here is a product of his research and candid perspective. If you disagree with his take, please leave a comment. He reviews them personally. Now, before we get into the numbers, I want to be clear about who this video is actually for, because Qwen isn't for everyone. And I'd rather tell you that up front than waste your time. If you're a solo developer, a small agency, or a business that's running AI at any real volume, and you started to feel the API bills, this is for you. If you work in healthcare, finance, or legal, where sending data to a third-party server is a compliance nightmare, this is especially for you. We're answering one question today. Can you actually replace paid AI with something local and free? And what does that realistically look like? Let's start with the math, because this is where the conversation gets real. GPT-4o costs about $2.50 per million input tokens. Qwen 2.5, hosted on providers like Together AI, runs around 30 cents. That's a 10 times difference just on API pricing. Now scale that up. Say you're processing 50 million tokens a month across your automations, your content pipeline, your customer support. With GPT-4o, that's potentially $125,000 a year. With Qwen hosted externally, you're under $15,000. And if you run it locally on your own hardware, you pay for the machine once, and then it's basically just your electric bill. That's a shift from a variable cost, one that grows every time your business grows, to a fixed cost you actually control. And for anyone building something serious with AI, that difference is enormous. So what actually is Qwen? Because it's not one model, it's a whole family. You've got base models for general use, Qwen Coder built specifically for development work, and Qwen Mass tuned for data and analysis tasks. That specialization matters more than people realize. The coding model genuinely outperformed the general one on coding tasks. So don't just grab whatever's easiest to download and call it done. What makes all of them interesting for our purposes is that they're open weight. You can download them. You cannot download ChatGPT. Owning those weights means you can run everything on your own hardware. Nothing leaves your server, and you're never at the mercy of someone else's pricing decision again. The 72B version, the big one, also supports 128,000 tokens of context, meaning you can feed it an entire code base or a 300-page document in one go without it losing the thread. And look, open source models have had a reputation problem for a while, the assumption being that free means worse. So let's just look at the actual numbers. Qwen 2.5 coder scores 92% on human evil, which is the standard coding accuracy benchmark. GPT-4o sits around 90%. Independent testing from Big Code confirmed that for bug fixes and routine Python tasks, Qwen isn't just competitive, it's ahead. And on general reasoning, the 72B version is 5 times smaller than Llama 3405B, but matches it on most benchmarks. Smaller model, same output, much cheaper hardware to run it on. That's the efficiency story that makes local deployment actually realistic for normal people, not just companies with data centers. Second concern, privacy. And this one trips people up a lot. People hear open model, and they immediately assume that means safe. It doesn't. If you're running Qwen locally on a secure server you control, great. You've got much more control over your data. But if you're using a hosted version, a third-party app, or some cloud wrapper someone built on top of Qwen, your data might be going somewhere you're not fully tracking. The questions you need to be asking aren't just, is the model good there? Where is my data actually going? Who can access it? Is it being stored or used for training? And does any of this comply with the regulations in my industry or country? Those aren't optional questions, especially if you're handling customer data, financial records, medical information, or anything legally sensitive. Third thing, and this one surprises a lot of people, the cost math isn't always what it looks like up front. Yes, Qwen can be cheap compared to some alternatives, but the moment you start building AI agents, the math shifts. An agent isn't just answering one question. It's thinking, retrying, checking itself, calling tools, reading files, looping through steps, and each one of those actions is a token cost. It adds up fast. I always use this analogy. It's like buying a cheap car and then realizing it gets 8 miles to the gallon. The sticker price was low. The actual cost of using it, different story. So before you commit to building something on Qwen, map out what a real workflow actually looks like end to end. The per message cost is not the full picture. So the big question, should you use it? Honestly, it depends on who you are. If you've got technical people on your team, Qwen is worth taking seriously. It can reduce costs, support local deployments, handle complex workflows, and give you flexibility that purely closed platforms don't. But if you're a small business without a technical team, be careful. Running open models locally isn't plug and play. Keeping them updated takes work. Monitoring outputs takes work. And using them without really understanding the privacy and bias risk, that's where things can go sideways fast. The bottom line, Qwen is a sign that powerful AI is becoming more accessible. That's genuinely exciting. But accessible doesn't mean effortless. Do your homework, ask the right questions, and don't let the free and open framing make you skip the due diligence.